What do you guys think about shows? Do you feel like you can pick a good show, or are you more interested in maybe the price point? What would attract you to want to be a vendor at a show? We're wannabes. um, Ma, you'll get there. You'll get there. You just got to put yourself out there a little bit. Um, so what if you were looking for a craft show? What is the deciding factor of why you would want to go to that craft show or be a part of that craft show or be a vendor? Um, what would you what are you looking for? Do you have a system, or are you just like, okay, that's in my price point? Do you do some research? Do you um, go to the show prior? Just curious. I can tell you my process, and it's changed a lot over the years. Carrie, you do need to be. You have cute stuff. Sorry, my mouth was dry. So, this question also, you would ask me. That's a very good answer. This question also will depend on where you're at in your journey, right? So, if you're a brand new vendor, your answer might be different than those of us that have been doing this for a long time. You might be on a tighter budget. You might have to do some of those shows that are a little bit lower on the price scale because you have to, and that's fine. Joelle says price, but also location. Location does make a big difference, and I'll tell you my input on that. But if you've been doing shows for a long time, you kind of get a feel for what shows are going to be successful for you and which ones aren't. It also depends on what you're selling. If you are selling Christmas ornaments, which don't get me wrong, they do sell in the summertime, but that's all you have to offer, you might not be successful at a spring or summer show. But if you have a variety of things, some of those other things might be more successful during the spring and summer. And your Christmas stuff would be very popular in the winter time before Christmas. But so it depends. Nothing is set in stone for anybody. So, what I might give you as advice might not be right for you. So just keep that in mind. I tend to look at location, Joelle, 100%. Are you trying to break into your local area? Are you really trying to get the word out to your community that you're here and you are doing these things, and you want to offer your products to people in your area? That's a good place to start. If you've already saturated your area, which me personally, in my products, I like to stick with just a few local ones lately because I've kind of been doing local ones for so long, and honestly, I change up what I'm making, but I don't how many things can you buy of the same, right? So if I have exhausted my local community, I might try a different area. If I am really looking to make good money at a show, I might target a higher income, higher population area. Um, for example, I really enjoy doing the few shows that I do in Clarkston. It's a little bit of a drive, okay, so you have to be willing to drive sometimes. It takes me about an hour from home to get there. And but I like to do that show because a few reasons. The show organizer is phenomenal. She does a great job at, excuse me, that cola. She does a really good job at advertising. So that's one of the other things I look at. But it's in a community that has a higher population than what we have maybe in Shiawassee County or even like Owasso Corona. So I like to do that show because it has a higher population, and unfortunately it also has a higher income base. Shiawassee County tends to be um, Shiawassee County tends to be a little bit lower on the economic pay scale. And not that my items are expensive, because they're not. They're absolutely not expensive. But people in different economic areas are willing to maybe spend a little bit more. And I'm generalizing here. Please don't take this as stereotypical. And I'm not saying that everybody in Shiawassee County is economically strapped, because that's not true. There are a lot of really successful people in the county that can afford to do that too. I'm just talking about if you're looking at location and you're trying to break into a new area, you should also look into what is their economic status for that area. What is their population for that area? Joelle, this show is at the Clarkston High School. It is a juried show. And for those of you that don't know what a juried show is, it means that you have to apply and you have to submit pictures. So you send pictures of your items, you send pictures of your setup, you have to sometimes give them some history about your craft and what you're doing. This particular one has been doing shows for a really long time, and she's very good at picking vendors that fit the type of show she's trying to put on. And I say that as I feel like I have to be delicate here, but you guys know me. Most of you know me well enough that I can be a little bit on the real side. So when you go to a show and you walk in and everything looks like it's been pulled out of a garage and you're having a garage sale, those are hard shows. Okay, so you want to look for shows that the vendors have quality products and quality setups. So this juried show is one that once you get in, you're in. And so they're a little bit harder to get into sometimes. They do cost a lot more. I will say that my juried shows, you're not going to get in for $25 or $35. Those shows are great when you're first starting out, but when you are and have been doing shows for a while, it's worth it to pay a little bit more because you're going to get more in return. So that's what a juried show is. This particular event coordinator is specific because she doesn't want overlap. She doesn't want somebody to come in and have their stuff look like it came from a garage sale. She's a handmade, artisan only show, and she's great. So that's one of the other things I'm looking at. I'm looking at what kind of show is this person putting on? Is she particular or he particular about the type of vendors that come in? Are they really limiting the number of tumbler makers? Okay, if you go to shows lately, it just seems like the sublimation tumblers are everywhere, and I feel like everybody is doing them. But do they limit that? Do they limit the number of people that are making the same thing? That makes a difference. It's good to have competition, but you don't want to be so saturated that people can't make a decision. Joelle, I have done a couple shows in St. John's, and it's ran by the same lady at the cider mill, and I pretty much follow her around all summer. because I really enjoy her shows and I think she does a really good job. So, and Carrie, the one at the high school, is ginormous. It's definitely a place you can get lost in. Um, but I will do my research first. I'll look at shows. I'll go to the show before um, I actually pay to be a vendor these days. I didn't used to. I used to be like, yeah, I want to try it. I want to try it. And I might as well try it because if I don't, I'll never know. But now I'm a little bit more particular because, like I said last week, I don't plan on doing that many shows. I'm going to do the few that I like. I'm going to do a few at a few places that I know are successful. One, I just can't haul the crap all over the place. I just can't do that anymore. Um, and I can afford to be a little bit more particular. But if you're starting out and you're just learning, like Mom Michelle, you and Dad are learning, you should do those smaller shows because you need the practice. You need to figure out what products sell, what products don't sell, what's going to be interesting to people, how do I set up my stuff, how do I display my stuff. Those lower paying shows are great experience. They might not always bring in good revenue back to you, but they're great experience, right? It requires you to build up some inventory. It requires you to think about how does my booth look to somebody coming in to my space. It requires you to think about like, oh, I really thought these are gonna sell and they don't sell. It makes you think outside the box. So starting with those smaller shows is absolutely the best way to start out. You have to start somewhere. That's my advice. When you've done a few and then you start doing those smaller shows, and I'm not picking on the $25, $35 shows, right? I've done those, I've organized those. But I'm going to tell you that those shows don't have the money to put in for advertising dollars. So you get what you get out of that. That is like a crapshoot. Like if you go into that and you're like expecting to make a lot of money, it probably isn't going to happen unless there's a huge network, right? Um, yeah, Valerie, smaller shows are great to start out and get your feet wet. Val and I do a lot of shows together. Um, we really enjoy each other's company, so um, but they are great. Um, and like I said, I'm not picking on those smaller shows. I'm just saying those are a great place to start. Um, you have to start somewhere, so do your research. Look at how much advertising they're